Hi, and welcome back to Psychology Demystified with me, Dr. Karen. I'm trying to do my best with sticking to my goal of uploading every first Tuesday and every last Tuesday of the month. So far, so good. Again, it's only been about a month, so I shouldn't just start celebrating too early, but so far, so good. Today, my topic is going to be about how to recognize anxiety in children. So, stay tuned. Now, what does anxiety look like in a child? You may be surprised to discover that it's different from the way it looks like in an adult. And the reason why is because children have not yet fully figured out how to express what they are feeling. So there are some signs and symptoms that you, as someone's mother, aunt, sister, teacher, should look out for. And I'm hoping that this information is helpful to those of you who work with children on a daily basis, or even those who come into contact with them once in a while. Even if you're a Sunday school teacher, keep listening. Although there are no known statistics in Kenya about anxiety in children in Kenya because of how we perceive therapy to begin with, the Anxiety and Depression Association of America has actually found that 1 out of 8 children suffers from anxiety, and that's just in the US alone. I'm sure if we did a survey of children in Kenya, we may discover the same thing, but that's to come in the future. But I have to present this information to you now so that you know what to do now while I think about how to present this information based on the Kenyan and indeed the African context. Probably in the future, some statistical data has to be collected. So for now, let's use the US numbers and see how we can help our children in Kenya and indeed in Africa. There's something very tricky when it comes to identifying anxiety in children. Some people actually identify anxiety as behavioral issues in children because they don't know that there are issues behind what's causing the behavior, and that is indeed anxiety. Keep in mind that even though I mentioned some behavior issues, and that's how some people misinterpret what anxiety looks like, anxiety symptoms are not always going to present in behavior. Behavior is one way, just one, that you may be able to identify that there are anxiety symptoms. Just one. So don't start looking at behavior issues and immediately assume, yep, there's anxiety behind it. That would be erroneous in many ways. So behavior is one, but I'm going to mention others. There are other things to look for that can indicate whether your child or a child you work with is experiencing anxiety. And this comes in many different forms. Whenever your child complains of a body pain or a physical illness, quite frequently, such as headaches or a stomach ache or muscle aches or frequent visits to the nurse, that could be an indicator. Remember, I'm not saying it is, because nothing is set in stone, but it could be an indicator of anxiety. Sometimes you may notice that a child starts to present anger and mood swings. This is another symptom because children are not quite sure how to manage their emotions yet. It's something that we learn, and we've learned over time. It's not something that we're born with. We learn through other people's actions, seeing how they react to anger and mood swings, and these are things we pick up. So because a child hasn't mastered how to handle these emotions yet, it's another symptom. It could be just as simple as them being irritable or having a tantrum or a meltdown. Some children express their anxiety in this way. Sadness is another way that children present their anxiety. You may notice that there's suddenly tears all of a sudden. They come from nowhere. And it could be completely unrelated to what has just happened. A tiny thing in your eyes might cause them to have this huge meltdown and they burst into tears and they seem extremely sad. It's because there are underlying issues behind there. Sometimes it's time to seek the help of a mental health therapist who can then go beneath the layers and help you figure out what they are. You may also notice that a child starts to be extra clingy where they weren't to begin with. But usually they'll become clingy to people who they're closest to. So that's another way that you may be able to detect anxiety. Other things to look out for could be them not wanting to go to school. And I don't mean this, you don't start looking out for, if it happens once a week, Probably it's because they're tired. I mean, even we sometimes don't want to go to work. So you can't suddenly think, oh, my child today on a Monday doesn't want to go. That must be anxiety. No, that would be faulty. This starts to become almost a common thing. They don't want to go to school. They would rather be alone than play with their friends. Another thing to look out for is if they're unable to concentrate, or if they start to seem exhausted, or they have an inability to fall asleep at night, then that could be a sign of anxiety, because there's something behind everything that's causing them to not function as they normally would. Because when it's time to go to sleep, children go to sleep. Okay, some might fight with you at some point, but when it's time and they drop, they just drop. But if you find that your child has an inability to sleep, which looks almost like adult insomnia, then that could be a sign of underlying anxiety. Many different situations can cause anxiety for a child, and these could be a stressful home or a school situation. If something changes, if there's a move, if something in their life switches, then you could notice that they have anxiety about that. Keep in mind that anxiety in children is treatable. It's not time to freak out. It is treatable, especially if you catch it early on. And if you work out a plan with your pediatrician, because your pediatrician is very knowledgeable. It's not only a mental health specialist who can deal with this, and pediatricians and mental health specialists actually work together when it comes to some situations. So your pediatrician can help you come up with a plan that works best for you and for your child. So remember, it's treatable. It's not the end. Please don't panic. I know as a parent, the first thing to think is, oh my gosh, there's something wrong. Breathe. It's treatable. Don't panic. So now you know that anxiety in children presents differently from adult anxiety. Next time, in my next video, on the first Tuesday of April, I will be telling you different techniques to be able to calm an anxious child. So subscribe, keep watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!